an organization selling, just give me one moment. So if you're an organization that is into sales of, say, baby products, you will have, or let's talk about sales of cars, right? So you're a Mahindra. You will have a national sales manager who's responsible for overall sales for the entire organization across India. You will have regional sales managers who will be responsible for, say, 4 different regions: north, south, east, and west. And you will have area sales managers who will be responsible for sales in specific areas and geographies, which are called as territories, or these are called as ASMs. Now, the context for communication changes with the audience. So when you have to present sales data to the national sales manager that works out of, say, a Mumbai corporate office, and is essentially responsible for sales across the organization, what needs to be presented and what are the key metrics that are of import to that person will be very different from what a regional sales manager needs to look at, which will further change the moment you get to an ASM level, who will need very operational data, day-to-day data about, what is selling, how is it is selling, at what price point is it selling, what is my highest selling vehicle, what are the margins that we are making on that, blah, blah. Whereas the national sales manager would essentially be looking at the national level, what are my top performing geographies, what is my top performing product, where do I make maximum margin, where do I need to promote more. So the context and the data hence changes with the audience. The narrative has to be built around that. So when you're presenting to an audience, you decide what you need to present to that person basis that person's persona. And on the basis of that, you create your design. And that is where the visualizations come in. So your visualizations essentially support your narrative, and that is how you present that data to your audience. So at the end of the day, and at the basic crux of all of this, is your targeted audience, which is the very important part. You need to keep your targeted audience all the time in your mind when you are creating a data story. So let's talk about the why behind it. Like I said, there's an overload of data. There's a lot of information available. To wean out the most relevant information is why you need data storytelling. There's lack of actionable insight. So you should be able to not only wean out the right information, but also give insight on top of that so that some action can be taken. Without action, the data is meaningless. At the end of the day, this should be presented using very effective visualizations, because if your visualizations are ineffective, that data is not presented right. If it is not presented right, it is not understood right, and it is not adopted well. And this leads to a poor adoption, which is where adoption becomes very important. So the moment you're visualizing it right and sharing it right is where the adoption goes up. So this, let's talk about, I've put 3 different types of applications here: strategic, analytical, and operational. And this is where I'll go back to the example of the national sales manager, the regional sales manager, and the ASM that we talked about, right? Strategic is where you're going to bring out the top level metrics, keeping the context of the audience in mind. The national sales manager will need to look at metrics at the national level, very high level, so that the strategic direction of the organization can be decided using that data. The regional sales manager needs to look at a next level drill of his or her specific geography, and then it further drills to a very operational level metric, which will be of relevance to an ASM who's looking at it at a day-to-day level. So these are the different types of analytical applications that get built, and the context changes, the visualization changes, and the insights change with the audience that consumes that information. So to give you a few examples, data storytelling is nothing but an art which is used for informing, engaging your audience, and at the end of the day, inspiring certain actions with that. So, if you Google some of the best data storytelling examples that exist online today, you will come across this on a website, and I've quoted the source here as well, in case if the presentation gets shared. So this is a beautiful example of how the Gates Foundation has explained, using data visualization, the disparity that comes into, or the gap that comes into, the male to female ratio in a professional setup, in the working community, or in the workforce, through a period of time and different stages of life in the sub-Saharan Africa. So, the way it has been beautifully depicted, and it is so easy to understand. So both the girl and the boy child start their journey together. they need to survive till the age of 5, because the African continent is also plagued with a lot of other problems and the survival rate of children is much lower. But once they cross that stage is where the different phases kick in, right? So they've weaved it through education, family, household, and workforce. And then they have added how through every few years, the journey keeps going down for the girl child and how it keeps going up for the boy child, which results in the gap of 26% that is seen in the workforce between the males to female ratio in that continent. So a beautiful way of depicting a story using data to educate about the gender gap, right? So this was a very classic example. I thought it was beautifully explained. Another example that we'll all be very closely be able to relate to. So we all went through a very tough time during COVID in the last 2 years back. We all understood what it meant to be affected by COVID. In this particular example, the most common symptoms of COVID have been depicted using the severity levels. And if you see, it just walks you through the severity level, and at the same time, it also talks about the percentage that gets impacted by that symptom. So again, an example that one could easily relate to. And while it is ironical that we are calling it beautiful, because COVID was probably one of the worst times of our lives that we had all lived through, but just see the impact that the visualization has using a thermometer as a scale. So it is the creativity along with the data points that immediately ring a bell and you're able to connect, and that is where the story comes into the picture, right? So it's this story that weaves a narrative and it's able to ring a bell in your mind immediately. Otherwise, numbers by themselves take a very long time to be able to understand. So why is data storytelling good for business? For all the reasons that we just spoke about, but just to reiterate, so you need to be able to use data for accelerating your strategic decisions, which comes out through narratives. You should be able to create the right actionable insights, because any insight which doesn't inspire action is just a number. An insight that inspires action is the right insight. You should be able to increase user adoption with that and make data available to everyone. And in the end, you should be able to enhance the user experience. So what is important is that you be able to take this, present it to the community that needs to have used that data, and then allow them to further use to enhance their experience and that of their team, so that they can use it for the corrective actions that may be required for their respective departments. With that, let's take a look at what are the different skills that are required to be a good data storyteller. So analytical skills are obviously a basic premise. Anyone who wants to be able to tell stories should be able to at least at the minimum understand data. So understanding of data lies at the base of it. Along with that, knowledge of certain basic BI tools. And this is not, while there's a lot of things listed there, a basic requirement is knowledge of a very standard BI tool, which will be essentially, the likes of your Power BI or a lot of other no coding tools, which can be very easily understood and learned. So these are tools that do not require any kind of coding language. There are tutorials available online which you can go through, and you can learn one or two tools on your own very, very easily, and they can be used for creating beautiful visualizations. Apart from that, UI UX skills, again, while there's a lot of things listed, there are certain people who are specific UI UX designers. Someone like me who doesn't come with a UI UX background has built dozens of dashboards in my career, right? And the reason why it was possible was because you just need to have a very basic understanding of the nuances of colors, visuals, and you should have a thinking mind that can knit a story using a design, right? So that design thinking comes at the top, which is very, very important. And colors. So I'll show you some examples of what kind of color schemes are used. And in the end, the data visualization skill. Now, data visualization is an ingredient of data storytelling. And in this, the most important thing which one should learn, and it's very easy to do again using certain free material available online, is to be able to understand what are the different data visualization parameters available. There are graphs, charts, maps, which are available. You should be able to review certain basic best practices around these graphs, charts, and visuals and knit them into a graphic design using a data sequence. And that is what helps build great data stories. On top of it all lies communication. So any narrative that's backed by a very strong communication is where you are able to make an impact. So these are some basic skills. While a lot is listed, like I said, the primary premise of being able to build good, effective data stories is understanding of data, knowing a very basic tool with which you can create visualizations, and these tools are no code tools, freely available. The third thing is having a basic design sense and appreciation for colors. And fourth is understanding basic visualization best practices, which includes understanding of basic charts and graphs and what kind of charts would be used in what scenario. And we'll talk about that shortly. So with that, we'll start talking about visualization itself, which we said is a key component of data storytelling. Now, while visualization is touted as a key component of data storytelling, where we said storytelling is all about data, user, narrative, and visualization, data storytelling becomes a component of visualization. So it's a chicken and egg story as to what comes first, but let's take a look at visualization itself. So data visualization essentially means you're bringing out data using a graphical representation. Now that graphical representation can be in the form of charts, it can be in the form of graphs, it can be maps. So there are dozens of tools available with which you can build visualizations, right? But at the end of the day, the objective is you are making data more understandable. You are able to draw patterns. So if you're drawing a bar graph or a line chart, you should be able to share the pattern. You should be able to see and visualize those patterns coming out of that information. Support the citizen data scientist. Now, this is a very commonly used term. I'm not sure how many of you are aware of the citizen data scientist as a term, but I would like to just spend a moment talking about this. See, with the I would say with the implosion of information, and I wouldn't say explosion, but the implosion of information within organizations today, what is happening is where information was very, very siloed historically, all the data used to come to a central team. There was an IT professional who used to be the only person who used to understand that data, who used to be the only person who could work on that data. That person used to curate a lot of reports, dashboards, build specific things for specific teams, and then distribute that information. Those times are long gone. Today, every department holder and most people are data savvy. They understand their data, they understand their source data, they need information much faster, and they are able to play around with the data, right? As no coding tools have come into the market, almost every person who's the consumer of the information has also become a curator of information, and people are building their own views of the data that they want to look at. So every person who's a consumer of data has also become a data scientist to some extent, because they have become data savvy enough to not need an intermediate team to curate that information for them. So that is where visualizations become very handy. So if I have an Excel and I'm able to build a bunch of visualizations on top of my data, because I have a very clear understanding of what I need to look at, that's good enough for me. So that is where every person who's a consumer, so whether it's a marketing professional, an HR professional, a branding professional, a supply chain professional, all the people who are consumers of data have become data scientists to some extent. And at the end of the day, data has become big, right? So we have an explosion of data now happening worldwide, and to curate information from that data is where again you are using visualizations to be able to make sense of it. So for the benefit of this group, certain tools which are in vogue today for data visualization, very easy to understand and used worldwide, are, you would have heard of Tableau, Click, ClickSense, ClickView, Looker Studio, again, very commonly used, very popular. Power BI, one of the most popular. So this is a Microsoft product extensively used for data curation, data visualization. You have Domo, you have Sisense, and you have so many more, right? So I brought in these names specifically to give you some idea of the kind of tools and technologies that are available in the market and very easy to learn. Some of them are very, very easy to learn. So if you just Google about Tableau, Power BI, you'll find so many tutorials with which you can easily learn these tools yourself. So with that, let's take a look at the key components for visualization. And we'll not spend a lot of time on this. This is quite evident, right? So it all starts with the data. You need to put visual elements on top of that using certain visualization techniques. There has to be some interactivity built into it. So when I say interactivity, We are talking about using that information to know more. So if I'm looking at, if I'm the regional sales manager and I'm looking at my north region, I should be able to drill down to the state level to see which state is the most contributing to my sales. Then I should be further able to interact with it to see which city within that state is contributing to my numbers, right? So that is called interactivity, building interactivity within your visualization. Color palette and design, because color is a very key component of the visual representation. Context and annotation. So nowadays a lot of commentary is put on top of data, so that anyone who's looking at it is also able to get the context. What tools and platforms are getting used. There's obviously a lot of data preparation and data exploration that goes in the back end before it is created, and then there's the dashboard that comes out in the end, which is the final product that is represented. Now a dashboard, and before I show you some sample dashboard, a classic example of a dashboard which will be very easy to understand for everyone would be your car dashboard. So today, with the advent of so many features, and our cars have become smart now. So you even have an internet component in your car today. The dashboard itself has become like a it's like a gadget in itself with so many different displays and dials out there. So you get all the information about your car, including even the air pressure of your wheels today on your dashboard. So that's a classic example of what a dashboard is. So with these components covered, I've gotten two examples to show you of things that need to be kept in mind when coming up with visualizations, right? So there's the color palette, some samples, sequential. So if you're talking about, if you're using colors, what are the different ways in which colors can be used? They can be used for in a sequential pattern, as is shown at the top, to show the low to high. Intensity can be used for representing different things. Diverging, where you can be using sequential colors for subsequent categories. Then you have categorical, where you have very distinct colors showing up. So say, for example, if you're looking at a chart which gives sales information by the type of vehicle. So you have a Maruti Suzuki, you have a Maruti Ertiga, you have three more models. Now each model, which is a different category of vehicle, can be represented by a distinct color on that bar graph. Highlight, where you have one color standing out to highlight a specific piece of information. Or alert, so red is a color that is typically used for either alerting or for red flagging. So these are many different there are many different uses of colors, and these are some of those listed here. So colors play a very important role. Likewise, the type of visualizations play a very important role. So this is essentially a kind of tabulation of the different types of charts and graphs that exist today. And this is something I've borrowed from publicly available information on my last organization's website. So you need to choose the right chart type for your data. So if you're looking at, say, for example, the percentage contribution of Maruti Suzuki to the total Maruti sales, you may want to use a pie chart, because that's a part to whole representation. So different types of data pieces require different kinds of visualizations, and that is exactly what is listed here. And we'll look at these through some examples which are coming up now. So sample dashboard. Very interesting HR attrition dashboard. So we all understand attrition, right? When employees decide to leave an organization, you look at that number as an attrition. So if you look at this dashboard, it's a very beautifully constructed dashboard which has an overview on the left-hand side or the left panel, which talks about the attrition rate that the organization is experiencing for a certain period of time. So always remember, any visualization will always have a time context to it. So this will also have a time context. It will have a certain period of time in mind, right? So it could be for a month, it could be month to date, it could be year to date, it could be any of those. So this is for a certain specific time. Actually, it's listed above. It says 27th May to 8th May 2022. So it's a almost a year period that is shown there. Attrition rate with the total numbers that have attrited, and then what is the total employee strength today. Then it goes a level down where it talks about the attrition by department. It also talks about attrition by job role, and it gives an attrition trend at the bottom monthly. So monthly, how many people are leaving the organization, to be able to share which period of the year is where you've experienced most attrition. And if you are able to correlate that to specific trends in the organization. Say, for example, in a lot of organizations, people tend to leave post appraisals, right? So they're not happy after appraisal. So you'll see a spike happening post appraisals when a lot of people decide to part with the organization. That is also the period when people have received the increments and they decide to look for better opportunities, right? So that is what you see on the overview panel. If you now try and see on the right, there's a drill available. So the next level of information available is by demographic, where the gender, the age group, and the education of the people who have attrited is given. So that split is provided for you to better associate with, so this is a typical dashboard that would have been created for an HR manager, right? So better understand where are the people leaving us, why are they leaving us, and who's leaving us, so that some corrective actions can be taken to stop or plug that attrition. So if you go at the bottom, the survey scores are provided, and these survey scores, so typically people leaving an organization are required to fill an exit survey. So this could be that survey score with recent attrition, and what are the details of the attritions that have happened. So the lowest level of detail is available at the bottom right corner. So there's a very clear flow of information, a very clear narrative, keeping in the persona of an HR manager in mind, and visualizations that have been used beautifully. So you have the part two whole being represented by those donuts. You have the chart, the trend being depicted through that bar graph, where you can clearly see the spikes, right? You can see the information highlighted in that survey score at the bottom. So a classic example of what a beautiful visualization or a dashboard could look like. Another example would be this, which is a call center dashboard. Now, we all have essentially talked to a lot of people on call centers, right? So they keep calling us all the time, or we keep calling them. So if you have a query to raise to any of your service providers, you would essentially be calling. So even an Indigo flight inquiry, you would be calling the call center. So this is talking about a call center performance. What you see at the top is how many incoming calls are there, of which how many were answered, how many were dropped. What was the wait time? So when I'm calling, I'm put on hold before someone gets to talking to me on that call, right? So that is that wait time that is listed here, which will be a performance parameter for a call center. And then what is your customer satisfaction score? Now at the bottom is a lot of further information provided, where the wait time has been given by the week. So if you see here, the weeks are listed, right? So by week, the wait times, and actually the dots that you see here in the cluster is the wait time being put for each call. So beautifully illustrated here, where you see the outliers, where some people have had to wait much longer. The hourly view is provided, and in the end, at the right, you have the agents' performance. So your top performing agents at the top, and the bottom performing agents are at the bottom. So again, a very beautifully depicted drill view of a call center performance, which can be used by a call center manager for reviewing on a daily and a weekly and a monthly basis. So with that, quickly talking about some emerging trends in data visualization. We are almost at the end of our 30 minutes. This is not going to take long. First is the art of video visualization. So today now, from the static visualization, we are moving into video visualization, where things have become self-playing, as you can see on the screen right now. And these have helped create much stronger stories and create much better narratives. So video visualization is one of the most upcoming trends. And in fact, it's a trend that's already there. It's picking up very fast. The second one is data democratization, and we already spoke of it. So I'm not going to discuss this in detail, but we spoke about how the shift is happening from IT owning the data to all businesses owning their own data, right? So that shift is happening, and everyone will have the power to build their own visualizations basis their own requirements, because we have moved away from the coding based data analysis to no coding dashboards today, right? Then the third is the power of real-time visualization, where knowing my current status now has become very important, right? As of last millisecond, the information is available, and a classic example is a stock report that you see, right? So for people who trade in this group, and I don't know how many people on the call today are actually into trading, but if you're into trading, you would have seen that every day, every minute, when you are on the dashboard sitting, the stock price keeps fluctuating, and it is so beautifully represented using a graph. And this is a classic example of a real-time visualization that is used for depicting the flow or the movement of the stock price up and down in the entire dashboard. And you have the colors then getting used for showing the reds and the greens, depicting the pluses and the minuses of the stock movement. Then we talk about the visual I'm sorry. Yeah, so the use of mobile. So today, everything is available at the click of our mobile device. And that is where creating every visualization, keeping a mobile audience in mind, has become very, very imperative for social, for all kinds of application creators today, right? So if you see this, the view is essentially trying to help understand how a screen or how a visualization that is created for a desktop view is also then designed in a manner where it can be viewed on a mobile very easily, because today all top executives, everyone is mobile and they're using and consuming information on their mobile devices. So that's the next trend. And the last is, of course, the advance that has been made in visualization using AI and ML. So we have a lot of machine learning algorithms getting used for predictive analysis in organizations and so many other usages, right? So what you see here is a classic example of sales opportunity optimization, where it is looking at, like there's a funnel, there is a marketing funnel, a sales funnel. I have a bunch of deals that I need to look at as a marketing manager, but I need to optimize where I spend my effort, where the chances of conversion are maximum. And there's an ML algorithm going on at the back end, which is using my existing data to help me understand which deal will be the most profitable to pursue, or that has the highest rate of highest chances of conversion. So that is what is given on the right. So it says pursue this deal because this has the highest chance of conversion. So this, in this visualization, it is essentially using data from the backend, from the past, to curate ML algorithms on top of that to throw information which can then be used for taking action. So in this case, the action that will be taken by the marketing manager would be to wean out the deals that have the maximum chance of conversion, and hence asking their teams to focus their efforts on those deals. So use of AI and ML has already caught up in most industries, and that will be omnipresent when we are talking about visualizations going forward. So these are some of the latest trends in data visualization. So with that, I've come to the close of my presentation. We essentially spoke about data storytelling and what goes into creating strong narratives for specific audience using visualizations. And then we spoke about how visualizations are created and what are some of the key components and what some beautiful visualizations would look like. I hope this has given you a good sense of usage of storytelling for representation of data and how visualization aids that storytelling with charts, graphs, colors, and whatnot. With that, I'll take a pause here and would be happy to take any questions. Let me try and stop sharing so that I can see people if they are there.
Yes, thank you, Divya. I request everyone to please switch on their cameras. Meanwhile, I put up a question to her. Others may also prepare their questions and be ready with their question. So, very interestingly, Divya, in your last slide actually prompted me, ki, Jay, you should ask this question finally.
Good, sir.
Today, it's a time when in my childhood, I used to see people working on Excel and understanding those formulas, right? So
Yeah.
nowadays, even Excel is being taught even in schools.
Yeah.
So the environment has totally changed. So now take this point to the your last slide where you mentioned about the opportunities using AI and ML, and you also showed a real-time data visualization particular chart which represented stocks.
Yes.
It attracted my special interest into this session.
Yes.
So, I usually watch a particular website whereby this live data, real-time data visualization happens. So I was wondering then when everyone would come to know, say by use of AI and ML, that what is the best deal to happen.
Mhm.
So in that scenario, now everyone, so all 29 of us, we know that how it has to be done, which is the
Mhm.
best deal. So in that scenario, what will happen in that particular age?
Sure,
So
sir.
talking 15, 20 years later, what might happen?
So it's a very industry specific thing. When you say everyone knows, so today what organizations are aiming or to achieve through AI ML is you will have an ML algorithm of your own, which will be built using your understanding of what works best. See, at the end of the day, an ML algorithm also uses data at the backend that is available with you. So your ML algorithm will use your data. So what it will do is, taking the example of the the dashboard that I just showed you, you will have certain deals from the past. This ML algorithm will go through the deals of the last 5 years, look at the parameters that govern a deal conversion, see the deals that actually got converted, and come up with a way of calculating which deal will have the highest chance of getting converted, right? The more the data that you have at the backend, the cleaner the data that you have at the backend, the better your algorithm would be, and the chances of your algorithm giving an accuracy of 90%, 95% will be higher. The competition will be between you and me, where Your algorithm will be able to give you a 95% accuracy of conversion. Mine will be able to give me only 85% because my backend data is not good enough.
Okay.
Right? So that is where the differentiation comes in. So every organization in the market is trying to build its own algorithm today. But what matters is what do you have at the back end? Because algorithm is not magic. It is also going to use data to come up with a predictive pattern. And the accuracy of that predictive pattern will be governed by the quality of the data that you have within your organization. I
Got it.
hope I made myself clear.
Yes. So what I could say that if we all of us are using the same tool or a website or a data source, so then the ML will make a change with respect to my own used methodology. Say for example, 90% we all are using the same platform that will create a
The
90%.
only correction in that would be the source. Your source and my source will not be the same because your source will be your organization data, my source will be my organization data. And that is where the difference will come in. We may hire the best of the minds to build those ML algorithms, but what will change is while you may be using the same person today and I hire or poach that person from you tomorrow to build a similar ML algorithm for me, if my data is not good enough at the backend, I'll not get similar results. So the
Great. So
source
that
data is where the difference will come in.
ultimately the person who is handling data and understanding and negotiating within, you initially mentioned about curating, right? So the way we curate our data, the way we analyze, we present, we engage ourselves with our own data, so that will ultimately give the end result, and that
Exactly.
is it what it will make the difference.
Exactly, sir.
So with this point, let me put a point to all the participants here that with this diploma in decision management, you will be might be able to make a better difference with the data what you have in your organizations. So this particular way methodology will help you curate your data, analyze in the way it is required for the benefit of your organizations, benefit of your own career. So this is the difference which this diploma program will make. And I'm happy to share that till now we had this was our uh, third webinar, and all the three webinars the people who have taken they would be our own faculties to train you people in this diploma programs. So meanwhile, if anyone of you have any questions, please switch on your cameras, mic, and you can put up a question to Divya, please. Anyone?
Hello, ma'am. Swapnil
Hi.
here.
Yes, Swapnil.
Having UI and UX knowledge is necessary to build a visual data.
So, like I said, Swapnil, there was, see, again, if you are someone who's going to build a career as a UI UX developer, there will be a lot of further nuances that would be required. But like I said, I have been in the early parts of my career, I've built dozens of dashboards without having any base prior knowledge of UI UX. What you need to have an appreciation of is if you're building visualizations, you should know the use of charts and graphs, very, very basic. So there are certain DV best practices. If you just Google visualization best practices, you will get so many presentations that talk about which chart types, what graph types to use under what circumstances for presenting what kind of data, right? That's one. Second is you should have a basic design thought process, right? So design thinking is all about being able to think through the design. So if you have to build a narrative, we saw that HR dashboard, right? At least
Right,
in
ma'am.
your mind, you should be able to put the pieces together in a flow so that the information can be easily understood, right? That is the amount of design understanding and color appreciation that is required for building dashboards. But outside of that, nothing. A primary requirement would be understanding of a good tool. So you need to still know a good tool, say, for example, a Power BI or a Tableau,
Tableau.
which are easy to learn,
Right,
which are
ma'am.
no code tools, right? So like that's why I said no code tool knowledge will be required, which can be done through a course, it can be done through self learning and any way which is available. Yeah,
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
most welcome.
Thank you. Anyone else? Vinay, Shrikant, Tatode, anyone? Priyanka, Shreyas? Yeah, Monali, would you like to ask a question? Yeah, please go ahead.
Good evening, ma'am.
Hi.
Ma'am, actually, my husband owns an agri-based startup,
Okay.
tractorfactory.in, and my question is like, while creating a pitch deck to the for the investors, or for say for the website, if I'm creating for the startup, so what kind of strategic tools can be used so that my data, like the storytelling, that can be much more perceived in a better way. Because the clients that we have mostly are from the agri-based areas, but the investors are there mostly in the metropolitan cities.
Right.
So how to bridge that gap? Sorry for the interruption. My baby is also there.
Not a
I just
problem at
I
all.
hope you don't
She has
mind.
also learned data.
Yeah. No, not a problem. She's very sweet. So, if I understand your question right, let me, I mean, I'll repeat it so that you can confirm if I've understood it right. You want to understand how the pitch deck can be created using data in a storytelling fashion?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so see, for that, I don't think you will need any tool per se. You will have, see, for investors, there's a certain number of KPIs that need to be reported, right? The metrics, the key metrics that you would want to essentially talk about how your performance has been so far. What is your projected performance? What are your financials today, and what are your projected financials, right? Those are the kind of things that you would be presenting. So what you need to have in your mind very clearly is a narrative. That's why I said. So now you are very clear who's your audience here. Your audience is the investor. The moment you
Yes.
talk about an investor is going to listen to you because you want money from the investor, and the investor will invest only if they say business potential in what you're talking about, right? So if the investor sees that his money or her money will become 10 times of what they're putting today, they will invest. So your narrative has to now weave in those parts, right? So you should be able to say, when did you start, from where you started, where have you come today, what has your growth been like, how have you grown, what are the numbers looking like, what are the financials behind that, and what are your projected financials, right? So that is how you'll have to build it. And this will not be the same as what you will be using for your customers. That will have to be very different because they are agri-based. So they will not need these kind of information, right? For them, it will be a very different story that you'll need to present to them. I hope I
Thank you,
made
ma'am.
sense.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Great. Any other questions, please? Anyone? Anyone from the audience? Great. I would request everyone to please switch on their cameras. Divya, I am very much thankful to you for presenting the topic in such a elaborative manner. It was having
My pleasure, sir.
everything. Probably it was beyond for many people to understand it in the right way. Your slide mentioned inform, engage, and inspire. So that was one of the beautiful thing which to take away. You explained about usage of tools in analytical skills, UI, UX, key components, usage of color palette, Tableau, Power BI, and Click. Yes, let me tell the audience that the use of Tableau, Power BI, and Click, all these softwares we will be covering in the program which we are proposing. She mentioned about still visualizations, video visualization. That was amazing. Real time actually captured my special interest into it. So thank you so much, Divya. Almost every part of the data visualization, I think the borderline we have created now to create a palace on that. That's a part of the audience here. So thank you, everyone. So
My
last
pleasure.
call. Any questions, please, for Divya? Great. Good to go. Thank you so much. Please switch on your cameras. Last call. I'll take a pic and then we can close the sessions. Great. Please hold for a minute. Yeah, great. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for being here. Looking forward for all of you to join this particular program in Diploma in Decision Management. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.